What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Base Game Reviews Podcast. This is episode 5 already. We got all the boys back in the studio. I'm Jimmy Fornatron, and I'm here along with Max Deshaw and Warawana. Boys, back, how the hell are you doing today?
Super.
Yeah, I'm going great. Can't wait for it.
It feels good to have all three of us back in the studio again, our totally real studio that we're all absolutely in right now. Yeah, Max, it felt a little lonely without you the last time.
Yeah, no, I was missing you.
Welcome back.
Life, things happen. But yeah, boys, I'm pumped. It just means that my time to beat this week is going to be that much longer than that much more detailed. So
I love it. Is the binder like there and ready with notes in it?
Yes, you love to see it.
Yeah, that's journalism, baby.
There we go.
Speaking of things happen, we had an episode mishap this past Friday, which I totally tried to not take the blame for, but it was absolutely my fault. War and I, we recorded, it was like almost 2 hours of content, right? Like it was almost 2 hours. We're just going off. We're getting super technical, super detailed. And who forgot to unmute his mic? This guy.
See, this is why Max is not allowed to leave again. You have to stay, Max. We fell apart without you, man. Never leave again.
He needs to lay the smack down. But yeah, that was really embarrassing. I went to edit the episode and I was super stoked to do it. And then I was just like,
that's so tragic.
There's no audio on my part, and it's just Wara. And then he was like, okay, well, what if you just redid your audio? I'm like, dude, I don't remember what I said. And it's not
just lip sync the whole thing over.
Yeah, it's just it's reactions to things that were being said. And then, Wara did had parts where he said a whole thing, but I don't know, it was unsalvageable, people.
Just leave it. It's right. We'll move on, learn from that, and never do it again.
There's only so much we can do. But yeah, some exciting things happened in the last little bit. The new PS5 Pro SMFOB edition got announced. Max, what were your thoughts when you watched that presentation?
My lasting impression was how great is Ratchet and Clank A Rift Apart. The fact that they're still using that as an example of graphics, and it was a launch title. Amazing. And for someone who's a massive Ratchet and Clank fan, I platinumed that game when I first bought it, loved it to death. That was cool. Some games just are ahead of their time when they come out, right?
That's it.
But me myself, not in a rush to go and buy a PS5 Pro for sure. I think that the examples that they displayed while they are impressive, I mean, try and imagine yourself sweaty palms, heart racing, playing a first-person shooter, running around. Are you gonna notice those fucking trees in the back? Are you gonna notice that dog? Look how much sharper his tail is. Okay, it's cool, but it's also it's negligible. It's not it's fine if you stop moving and you A/B the two examples, but I don't know, man.
When they're next to each other, that's it.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
For me, it's cool, but it's not a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot more to add than what I already mentioned. The main point for me was in episode 4, where I said, you want to have a device for people who want to have better tech, who have more to spend. So that's why Sony came out with it. But I just had a little bit of a list of things I wanted to mention about the PS5 Pro. So things the PS5 Pro still can't do for $699.
Things the PS5 Pro still can't do for $699.
It can't make God of War Ragnarok any less forgettable.
Wow.
It can't make you miss as happy.
Oh. It definitely won't.
It can't play any Mario game.
Oh.
It can't make you understand the difference between hertz and FPS.
Ooh.
It can't play any Halo game yet.
Oh wow.
Ouch. It can't make your mum proud of you.
my God.
And it can't make Forspoken an 8 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't make the rules. So just wanted to point them out. But I don't judge other people on what they spend their money on. But at the same time, in Australia, the base PS5 digital is $680, and this is $11.99 here. So it's not for me. It's just not for me. There's a lot of other things I'd rather buy. There's a lot of other games I can buy instead of this. And while the Pro is showing its strength in visual fidelity, I'm definitely happy this gen already with the PS5 visuals.
Yeah, but Wara, you're not being authentic there because you didn't include the trade-in price that you could get for your current PS5. You didn't also incorporate if you run a few tricks on the street for a few weekends in a row, like how much money you'll get from that. You can put that towards your PS5 Pro. And then also if you just like have a garage sale and sell a bunch of shit, and then maybe then you can put some money towards it.
One more thing. I hate that every single person seems to be saying that you have two options now. You either upgrade to a Pro, like you must buy that, or you must buy a PC at the same price. I can't understand that logic, but that's what everyone's doing. It's blowing my mind that it's just like, what are you talking about? You can also stick to your PS4, you can stick to your PS5, you can stick to your PC. Stop acting like you have to make a decision now.
That's just also a huge gripe I've been having.
I'm so over this whole discussion.
It's just like a ton of these people who are console only players. And again, that's who you are. That's fine. But like hearing them talk about PC parts or PC, like anything, it's just like, just stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. You're going to buy your thing. That's fine. Like, stop trying to do girl math and try to like justify this. Like, I just don't agree with that. Like Max brought up there, like, are you going to notice this in real time while you're playing? Probably not. If you A/B test all the time, it's like, maybe you could pick up some stuff. And then also think about a lot of people's gaming setups. They're in their living room. They're fucking 10 feet away from their TV. Yeah. I don't care if you have an 80-foot fucking OLED TV. It's just like, are you going to notice that stuff? It's like, not really. I don't think so. Like, but if you're one of those people that like takes a lot of like screenshots, or you're one of those people that is like an in-game photographer and like sits in photo mode for 4 hours and wants like the perfect shot, sure. But like, if you want to be a PS5 Pro owner on a budget, just put your PS5 into graphics mode and then take a screenshot and be like, PS5 Pro life, because that's literally all you're doing. You're just getting to play the graphics mode and possibly 60 FPS. So I know a lot of people are excited about it. Good for you.
Yeah, enjoy it. I'm happy
enjoy
for you,
it.
Definitely.
Yeah, don't try to use your girl math on me, because just like your significant other, I'm not impressed.
Byproduct of this whole ordeal is that I feel so bad for all the PC cart. Like, what's it called? For people who abandon cart. You know how you always get an email? So many people are going to be getting those emails like, oh, you can get this whole thing for 10% off. And then this whole thing's going to happen again next week. Like, oh, now it's 10% cheaper. Anyway.
They're like, why aren't we turning these into sales? It's just a bunch of losers like trying to put together a PC for $800.
Imagine having to explain that to your boss. Like, oh, why are we getting so many abandoned carts? What are we doing wrong? Oh, no, you see, the PS5 Pro got announced and every fanboy's... Anyway.
Yeah,
I'm done.
That's all we want to say about it. Like, again, if you're into that, good for you. I just think a lot of people, you won't really see a difference. You'll have to have that placebo effect, and you have to be like, well, I spent $700 on it. Like, I totally see the difference. It's like, okay, sure.
It's their money to spend.
Yeah.
Exactly. The next thing I want to talk about, this wasn't an official topic, but I wanted to bring it up because we haven't been talking about this last few weeks. But all of the amazing, incredible work that's being done in the third party, in the depths of the internet, people getting Bloodborne to run on PC with PS4 emulation, and then just like,
what?
Yeah, like how insane and fast it's been going on. Like, think of it, gentlemen, 3 months ago, barely, they were just able to get it up to the Bloodborne splash screen, and then the game would crash. And that's as far as they could get. And then they're like, yeah, that's PS4 emulation. We're years away. And then like 2 weeks later they could get it in the character creator and then it would crash, and then like a week later they were in game but like a lot of textures weren't working. But it feels like every day now, every few hours, they're like, now it's in 4K, now it's got ray tracing now, and it's like it's got all this insane shit, and it's just like, wow. What do you guys think? Did Sony drop the ball by doing absolutely nothing with Bloodborne over the last 8 years now? What are you guys' thoughts?
Has to be a yes. Like, I don't know. I don't see. I mean, they know how devoted the FromSoft fans are, that there's people out there that would easily just, you know, like they could be printing money. They could be just port it over, man. Like what are they waiting for? Like how many versions of The Last of Us have they got at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like, but we can't get Bloodborne.
Yeah. I've been on record of saying like I would pay full pop for even just for them to make the PS5 version and then just add 60 frames per second. Like even if they just did like minor updates, and Lance McDonald has already done the work for them, and they could literally just like ape his work and then just be like, okay, $60, like people would pay it. And
I feel like Lance is the type of person who would say, Sony, you can have it. I don't want any money. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know Lance, obviously, personally, but I just feel like he's so passionate that he would just like hand over all his work and say, Sony, please patch this. I don't want any money. Just
he
take my
legit
work.
put off releasing his patch until the PS5 launch because he was like adamant that they were just going to do it. And then they didn't. And then he was like, okay, well, here you go. And what's funny about that is Sony literally did an over-the-air update and did no adjustments to any of the game code for Ratchet and Clank, the game before Rift Apart, so the PS4 game, and got that to run at 60 FPS. So like no editing the code whatsoever. They just did an over-the-air update. For Microsoft, for the Xbox Series X, they didn't have a version of Dark Souls 3 running at 60 FPS on their series consoles. And then, but the PlayStation 5, when you played Dark Souls 3 or Sekiro on the PS5, it ran at 60 FPS because of the PS4 Pro patch. And then Microsoft, they don't have a relationship with FromSoftware or Bandai Namco, and they released an update themselves to get it to run at 60 FPS. So you know this shit can be done, and like easily done. And it's almost like at this point, it's like they clearly either hate FromSoftware or hate Bloodborne, or I don't know how to explain it. Like, what are your thoughts, Laura?
So there are a couple of things. One, we know that Days Gone, is that the one that Days Gone? Yeah. So Days Gone didn't sell very well, didn't get very good reviews also, and so they cancelled a sequel. Bloodborne at launch didn't sell a lot. It didn't get a lot of sales. While I believe it did get good reviews. I can't remember exactly the reviews, but it did get good reviews from memory. Do you think, this is a bit of copium, but do you think that there's a chance that Sony is not touching it because they don't want to draw attention away from FromSoftware's releases currently, and they want FromSoftware to do something with it after? Or do you think that's just like complete copium as to... I don't believe it myself, but I just thought, I'm trying to think, like, why would you not do at least a patch? And like Max said, Last of Us remasters are everywhere, right? Like, oh my god, like
remaster.
Yeah, that's a game that I'm just not interested in, but I'm happy for the people who keep buying it. And once again, their money, their time, they can do what they want. But with a game like Bloodborne, it has sold a lot over time, and there's clear love for it on PC. I'm not saying whether they should port it to PC. It's not about that. It's just like, clearly at least PlayStation owners want it. It's pretty clear that PC gamers want a better version than what they can actively play now. But I did have one other question. I know that my understanding of Lance McDonald's 60 frames per second patch originally made it so that the game didn't like running at 60, and sometimes the jumping, for example, was inconsistent. It was not consistent. Is that sort of completely alleviated now with this emulation.
Well, yeah. So originally, because the game's tuned to run at 30 FPS, like it's tuned from start to finish. Like they coded it so like it's meant to run at 30 FPS. That's why, like, even when you do play it, like it's still like people gripe about it, like, oh, it's inconsistent frame rate, like frame timing. Shut up. It's like when you play it, like you could tell like they tuned it for that because it feels still pretty good. And then all Lance McDonald did is he took the PS4 Pro patch for Dark Souls 3 to uncap the frame rate from 30 FPS, because Dark Souls 3 also only ran at 30 FPS on PS4. And he took that PS4 patch and then he just like ported it to the Bloodborne game via a jailbroken PS4 that he has. And so he had to tune that as well. And then, through that, he learned there's a lot of little things that aren't meant to be at 60 FPS, like the cloth physics, jumping like you brought up, and like some of the dodge timings and stuff. But he went and like fixed all that. So at first he discovered that. Because if you go into the Bloodborne debug menu, you can turn on 60 FPS and it just 2 times the speed of the games. And everything just moves super fast and stupid.
Cool.
So
but, that's cool.
Yeah, cool little history lesson there. But what I did want to say to your point there is I don't think that's it for one bit. Like, I think personally, Sony is focused on their first party studios that they own. And I almost feel like at this point, like doing anything with Bloodborne is kind of admitting that their flagship studios are not delivering like gaming experiences that people are psyched about. So that's why I think like all of their focus is on like the next fucking Horizon game, God of War, The Last of Us, all of that shit. Not to mention those games, whatever. Like,
not to mention also they shut down Japan's studio that
they shut down Japan's studio, and this is speculation, but like I don't know. I feel like it's pretty logical speculation, but I feel like when you make a partnership with a third-party studio, there's probably like fine detail in the agreement that like if you change the platform on which you are selling their game or like doing anything with their game, you have to like renegotiate like profit share or something like that. So if they were to do some kind of update or remaster, it being on PS5, that's a different platform than what existed when they made Bloodborne. I feel like they would have to renegotiate. And I feel like Sony is not willing to, like, at that time, FromSoftware was not the size that they are now. So they probably got like a pretty hefty cut of the profits of Bloodborne. So I feel like FromSoftware doesn't want to keep that same arrangement. Again, this is all speculation. Because you're talking about the company that almost prevented the most recent Spider-Man movie from happening because they didn't want to negotiate with Marvel and they didn't want to do the same profit share with Marvel. So like you're talking about people who are that adamant that they would fully just like, okay, well, we'd rather nothing happen with it. So but I feel like at this point, like people have been telling me every year that like, oh no, a Bloodborne update's coming. I'm like, no, dude, it's not. There's not going to be a Bloodborne 2. There's not going to be a PS5 update. We're going to be playing it on PC, and it's going to be because of PS4 emulation. So, and I'm like, we're going to be playing it by the end of the year, which is crazy. Like we thought we were years away, and then now we're going to get all the things that we wanted, and it's going to be awesome. So I'm just stoked about that.
What's wrong?
I'm trying to decide what game to buy, but all these 3-letter review sites rate everything a 7, and I don't know who to trust. Help me, stranger.
Well, hell, have you heard of BaseGameReviews.com? The only website to use a transparent and detailed, in-depth review system that's open to everybody. That doesn't have a bunch of bought and paid for reviews, allegedly. So go there right now, BaseGameReviews.com.
You just threw away my laptop.
Don't you have a phone?
I guess.
Perfect! BaseGameReviews.com is optimized for phones as well. Now take that booger-picking finger and go to BaseGameReviews.com.
I'm there right now.
BaseGameReviews.com. Be there.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, and then also The slump is over.
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah, when in doubt, just like go to the tried and true classics, I think is what I've learned. And so that's what I'm in the middle of right now. I'm currently playing Final Fantasy VI 30 years late. And it's an incredible game. As just a JRPG fan, like it's perfection so far. Yeah, I'm immersed in it. The combat is a lot of fun. Like I said before, I plan on putting out a review with our retro template, so everybody can check that out, and everyone who's already played it can hopefully agree with my opinions and have a bit of nostalgia there. And yeah, it's been good. I haven't been gaming as much as I'd like to this year, honestly. Like I got really back into weightlifting, so I've been going to the gym quite a bit in my spare time. But when I do get a chance to sit down, I'm playing FF6 on the handheld Switch, on the Switch Lite, and it's actually been cool because I bought the Pixel remaster, like the collection, I don't know how many months ago, and I played them in order, and that was also hugely gratifying just to see the progression from game to game, and see each entry, like little improvements and things that they carried over from previous games, and just how much love and attention went into those games. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago about too many people getting involved in the process of making games these days, and the politics. But when you play those early games, like, man, there's just such a overwhelming feeling of atmosphere, and just like you find these little hidden things, and you're like, oh, these are made by people who love games, like,
yeah.
You just get that
that's
sense.
the best feeling when you're playing a game.
Yeah, you can tell.
And just a question is, which one was the first game that they did on Super Nintendo or Super Famicom?
I think it was.
Was it 6 or was it 5?
I think it was 6, because it was 3 when it came to the North America, and I think it was all the other ones were just on the previous console. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head, but that's my guess. That's what and you can see, like, it's so dope. Like, if the two of you think for a moment about the pre-rendered backgrounds of like 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
And how occasionally there'd be like objects in the background that were pre-rendered, but were also moving, like a wheel or like steam coming out of a roof, or just like, and in 6 is the first game where you can see that, but it with like pixels. So like there's just that much better of a graphical fidelity because of the different platform that it was on. And
yeah,
I'm like literally sitting here playing this game saying wow about a game that's like 3 decades old, and it's impressing me just because it's like it's the art, man, and it's just
and you're not playing it on the PS5 Pro.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whoa, how can you be playing? Anyway,
what the hell are you talking about?
So
that would be really cool, because you see like how much they're able to do with their limitations of like the NES at the time. So when you go from Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 5, and you just see the progression there, and like probably all of like the progression with like the in-game tech and the in-game mechanics, and how they get a little bit more complicated, and just like how they get better and more refined. And then that's a huge jump to 6, which is 3 in North America. And then the Super Nintendo is like going to 16-bit with all the parallax features that they had with the backgrounds and stuff. Like, but I'm really interested for when you finish this game, because I want to hear your thoughts on it versus Final Fantasy 7, and to see like where was Squaresoft's peak at that time. Like, was 6 the pinnacle, or was 7 the pinnacle?
Yeah. No doubt. And I'm making it a point to play through all of them, because for years I had my handful of them that I'd played, and I thought that I knew, right? And I was like, oh, I'm a Final Fantasy fan, but like I'd never even played the first 5 or 6, right? And it's like I don't even. So no, and now I have like my I just have more perspective, right? And I can actually like formulate a more educated opinion about like what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's awesome. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's I've been meaning to go buy them, but I wanted the physical version of the Pixel remasters, and I did notice that they got like scalped immediately. But I do plan on playing them because I haven't actually played anything 1 to 9 of Final Fantasy. I'm more of a new Final Fantasy fan, if you will. But yeah, obviously the remake of 7. But maybe I'll skip 7 until the next Final Fantasy 7's out because I want to play that without having played the originals, just to get a different perspective than a lot of other people playing it. But no, definitely. I want to see that progression as well, like you were mentioning, like from 1 to 7, how the tech like jumped.
Yeah.
Because
you know what cooks my grits is when I'm I wanted to buy the Pixel remasters on Steam, and they're selling them like each singles.
Yeah,
and they don't sell them as a bundle, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
I want the bundle.
Yeah, it's the same on the Nintendo store as well. You can buy them individually or as a bundle or as the physical copy, but they're out of print now. I actually paid way too much for it. And the price is still going up as like they become rarer, right? But like double what a Switch game costs. Let's just
is it? And then, but yours is a bundle though, right? The physical.
Yeah, it's
copy?
all 6.
Yeah.
It's all 6 on one cartridge, and I have a physical copy of like the case and everything. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's what I want. I just want to buy like one thing, and it's like the first 6 games. That would be sick. But like, nope, they know what they're doing.
Oh, they're sneaky bastards.
Yeah,
they keep putting out flops, so they wanted to re-release their good games.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Well, now we know what Max has been up to. We can go into what have we been playing. So, Wara, what have you been playing lately?
All right, yeah. So I've just finished my review of Astro Bot. I got the platinum for that. Been playing it with the kids, and yeah, they love it. They're 4, just so for reference. And they're able to finish levels on their own. And then I've played a bit of New World on console just to see what it's like, because I played that at launch on my PC. And it doesn't look that good visually, to be honest. Anyway.
Because you don't have the PS5 Pro yet.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's going to start ticking me off. Anyway, so yeah.
It's going to get overused, trust me.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, if I start seeing games that look worse on PS5, I'm going to start going, is this because they want the PS... Anyway. But yeah, and then I've jumped into Space Marine 2. I can't wait to smash some of that out. But I played the intro mission, and I'm playing on the veteran difficulty. And that's the intended experience. No, but that's the intended experience. So it's the second hardest, but it's apparently meant to be intended. It says it. But yeah, just after playing Astrobot, because Astrobot was just, it's just a kid's game effectively. But I was just like, oh damn, I need to tighten up. But I kept dying. I'm like, okay, I need to. You need a parry. It's got like it's a shooter, third-person shooter, but it also has a parry and like a dodge and stuff like that. So yeah, it's important to be on your toes, but yeah, it's a fun game so far. I'm excited to jump into that this week.
There's some like growing up like as an aging gamer now, and then a lot of the games that we grew up with were platformers. So like a lot of like jumping and like specific time jumps and things like that. And now when you play games that have platforming elements in it, like you kind of like that reflex kicks in and you're just like, oh, I remember this shit. And then you just you gotta like turn the hat backwards and like dial in.
That's it.
But it's funny to see, like, I personally find it funny that a lot of people are gushing over Astrobot, and I'm not denying that it's a great game. But what makes me laugh about that is because they're talking about how much they enjoyed playing it, and I'm just kind of like, doesn't like great gameplay really just make something like awesome? Like, shouldn't that be like in most games?
Thing.
And I find it's just going right over people's heads, and they're just like,
it really is. Yeah,
and you're just really like, don't worry about it. Just enjoy your game. I'm glad you're having fun. But yeah, no, that's awesome. What have I been playing? So I finished Star Wars Outlaws, and I totally wrote my my totally nice review about it. Yeah. And now I'm still playing more Ubisoft games, and I'm playing Avatar. And my God, man. And then in between, I'm playing Doom, and I'm also like playing Elden Ring, of course. But Star Wars Outlaws, I just want to talk about it for a second here. Anyone who like talked about that game and said it was like a genuine Star Wars experience is like, oh, it encapsulates being in the world of Star Wars. It's like, shut the hell up. Who are you? Like, what Star Wars did you grow up with? Because that is not what I played.
And they probably grew up with Andor.
Yeah, exactly. But like,
not that I hate that show. Oh, sorry, yeah, go.
That game was the game encapsulation of buttered toast. Like, it was just like, it was so bland, and it was just like, there were no bosses, there was like no stakes in the game. The entire game, the story was just like, there was no high points or low points. It was, and like, it barely kept on track with like the main storyline. And I was just like, dude, if you played Shadows of the Empire on Nintendo 64 back in the day, that was a far superior game. You're playing as like a Han Solo-esque scoundrel character, just like this Kay Vess character is supposed to be. It also takes place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, just like Outlaws does. Like, it just does such a superior job of that timeline, that setting, that universe. And that game is also 30 years old, and it's just like, dude, what the hell? And this game
also, I meant to say Andor, not Anor. Sorry,
I knew what you meant. I was like, okay, Andor,
sorry,
go. Anor Londo.
That's it.
But playing these modern AAA games, I'm just like, do any of the people play games that are in charge of these, like, who are in charge of making these things? Have you played a video game in the last 20 years? Like, what the hell? Like, a lot of the decisions that they make, right from the rip, you get control of the character, and it's like, fetch quest. And then you finish that, fetch quest number 2. And you're just like, these aren't fun. Like, I don't know who told you that gamers enjoy fetch quests. We don't. And then making an entire game where it's just fetch quest after fetch quest, I was just like,
it must just be so easy to program a fetch quest, and that's just why they just slop it in.
Maybe, yeah.
And then, the writing of the characters was just laughably so bad. And I mean this in the most, I know this is harsh, but I think you have to be harsh in this day and age. But with all of the Ubisoft stocks like going down, I definitely feel like it's a good thing for the industry that a lot of these people are losing their jobs. And I know that's super harsh, and it sucks to lose your job. But like, when you're a director of a game and you're a head writer and like all of this stuff, and you're making these terrible decisions, it's just like, I think you're in the wrong industry. Like, maybe you need to pivot.
Well, yeah, on that point, sort of, if we relate it to some Australian native plants, they only seed after a bushfire.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I see where you're going with this.
Literally, like the seed will be sealed, and it will not come out until a bushfire, it like burns it open, and then it seeds. So what is my point? My point is, sometimes shit needs to burn for stuff to grow and to come rebuild. Out on top. So that's just nature, and I agree with your point, Jimmy. I don't want to see any one person fired, but if devs aren't making good games, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Did you play either of the previous Jedi games? Like, what was it? Survivor?
You brought this up too, but like, people have been like, oh, you like Dark Souls? You'll love Jedi Fallen Order, or you'll love Jedi Survivor. And I'm like, I don't think I will. I have them. They're in my Steam library, but I have not touched them. I know, Wara, you've played at least Jedi Survivor.
I've finished both, and I've platinumed the newer one, Survivor. And I played Survivor at launch when I had the worst performance ever on a PS5 game, But yeah,
Max, what are your thoughts on that when people say
I was really curious if you had, because I played, I think it's Fallen Order, maybe a year ago, and while I think that they did some cool things in that game, and like bouncing lasers off your lightsaber felt cool, and there were some mechanics that were neat. Like they fucking failed so miserably on like basic shit, like just like moving around. Like I can't remember a third person game that felt that clunky just to fucking move. Like the guy literally tilts. Like you won't like turn. He fucking tilts when you go left or right, and it's like, what is happening? Like who designed the physics in this game? Yeah. It's so awful. Like games 20 years ago were way better than that at just basic movement. So that shit bugs me, man. Like I've written about that in reviews and stuff, and as like someone who plays Souls games to death, like that are just so precise and just razor sharp and so accurate, like. If you can't get basic fucking movement figured out, like you're fired.
Yeah, for me,
you're done.
Yeah, for me, that movement was exaggerated in combat. Like it just felt clunky. Like there were like it's not just even heavy animations. It was just it didn't feel right. Things were just it wouldn't flow, and like you said, like leaning and stuff like that. Just the game never felt really good. Like if it wasn't a Star Wars game, I don't even think I would have played this.
Right, if it hadn't had the name,
it's just
for
banking
sure.
off of Star Wars. Yeah,
definitely.
Because I love Star Wars.
What's funny is when they showed off the trailer for Jedi Survivor, like so over a year ago now, and I saw the Cal character like running, I was like, that is the fucking worst running animation I've ever seen. I was just like, that is laughably bad. I was like, that like, and I'm like, how is this in the final cut? And I'm like, they need to fucking, I'm like, I don't care what you do. Like, you need to fix that. I think that's my exact words. Like, go back and fix that. And I was like, because that just is jarring, like how hilariously bad it looks. And then I got like all the comments like, I'd like to fucking see you run, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here where, like, my comment on how bad an animation looks equals I hate Star Wars? It doesn't. It means that animation looks bad. And it's like, that's all that is. And I just hate this kind of, like, this Spartacus shit that people do when you, like, have an opinion against something that they love. And it's just like, and then you find out they haven't played it. So, like, a bunch of people got mad at my Outlaws review. And then they're like, oh, that's way too low of a score. Like, and I'm like, have you played it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, I fucking have. So like,
it's unbelievable. They're just defending, like, these ideas that they have. That's all it is. It's just
defend company.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is kind of what I expect from this type of crowd, but whatever. Let's get into our next topic. Wara, let's get ready for your mechanical talk. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Wara's mechanical talk.
Right. So this week, because I've been playing Astrobot, and during my game time with Astrobot, I couldn't help but keep thinking of me playing Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped on the PS1, and remembering all the levels in that. Like, you don't forget things like that, really. You know, like as a kid, and how good that game was for me, at least. So what I wanted to talk about was the Aku Aku. You know, this. It's not the life system, but the system of. Have you guys played it?
Crash Bandicoot? Yeah.
Yeah. So the mask thing that follows around, his name's Aku Aku or whatever. And if you have one and you get hit by an enemy, it goes away. And then he goes from like blue feathers to orange and yellow feathers if you have a second one. And then a third one, he goes on your face and you're invincible for like 15 seconds. I don't know the exact runtime. I'm going to guess at 15 seconds. So I really liked that system in that game because, you know, when you don't have one, you played really carefully and you slowed down a little bit, blah, blah, blah. And I only played it as a kid, so maybe as an adult, like, it would just be a massive breeze. I don't know. But, you know, when you had two on there, you were sort of like, wow, now I'm one more and I just got invincibility for 15 seconds and just run through everything, right? So my review of Astro, I made a comment about saying, while it has great enemy variety, I feel like it could have been cool to have a system similar to that. Now, this Astrobot does have a similar system during some boss fights where you have hearts behind your character, 2 of them, and as you get hit, you get reset to the middle. And the reason I sort of made the comment, I'm not saying it needed it, but the reason I'm saying it doesn't need it is because it would change the Astrobot game so drastically, really, because a lot of the difficulty is that you can only get hit once and you die and start again.
Okay.
Yeah, so through Astrobot, that's why people are complaining. And I even said in the chat, there's some levels that in Astrobot that are much shorter. They're like take 40 seconds to clear, but it's a challenge. So like you might take you an hour, or like some people are saying it took them hours to do the level. But to actually complete it from start to finish is like 40 seconds of movement. So obviously I made a comment saying obviously during those levels you would make it so that you couldn't have any of those things. But I just feel like overall I really like a system in that in Crash Bandicoot, because that system allowed for them to have more aggressive sections of the games with enemies. It made it so that platforming was more varied from like just having to like time things to also having to deal with enemies, or make it so that if you really hated a certain section that you wanted to get the mask on your face and just breeze through it. So obviously I'm discussing from memories from when I was a kid when I played it, but I still remember quite well, because you could like from memory you could go to get over 100% completion, like 101 or 102% doing secret levels and stuff like that. But just overall, I think that system was really well implemented. And I just made a comment saying that Astrobot, I feel like could have, to be a bit fresh, could have tried implementing a similar system, or just utilize the heart system that it does have for the rest, and then have enemies that were possibly more aggressive at certain points and things like that. So, yeah.
And then they took it as you hate Astrobot.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I personally hate every single and any game where there is a one-hit die mechanic. And I'm going to take you back, again, 40 years to a game called Super Mario World. And Mario has a mushroom that makes him bigger. And then if you get hit by an enemy, he goes smaller, so he doesn't insta-die. But if you start off the smaller one, then you insta-die. You can also get a star, and then you're invincible, and you can go through enemies. And it just adds a new layer to the gameplay. Because if it was just one hit kill the whole way, not that fun. So the fact that, like you said, that Astrobot kind of flips between the two mechanics where you're either one hit kill, or in special circumstances, you do have a health bar system. Pardon me. You have a health bar system of some kind.
Yep.
That's stupid. I think that's dumb. Because it's either like go with one the whole way or don't. So like the fact that they had to take that out, and then for the boss fight, they had to like nerf it and then give you a health bar, that tells you something, in my opinion. Back to War's point there.
Yeah.
I just like, I get it as like a difficulty setting that they want to make a one hit kill kind of thing, but I'm not a fan of that. But I don't know, if it worked out, but I think that's kind of silly that you have the two mechanics in your game, one with, one without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what was just weird about it. I'm just, and all the enemies.
What harm would that be? Like, instead of like having a mushroom, like, I don't know, have like a robot gear or a wrench or something, and then it like puts a shield on Astrobot, and then you're invulnerable to the next hit, and then after that, then you die. Like, I don't know, like, there's so many little things that you could do like that. But I guess if they thought that it was not necessary and people are loving it, good for them.
It just makes it seem a lot more targeted to kids. So the difficulty felt like it was targeted to kids. So yeah.
What's funny about that is a lot of people think that like Souls games are that way, where it's like one hit you're dead, and it's like, no, like there are some very few select places where like you will take a significant amount of damage, and that's to show you you're either A, underleveled, B, you're in the wrong area, or 3, you're supposed to kind of die there. So kind of like Demon Souls, the opening for that, like you go against the Vanguard, and it's just like he hits you with that big machete, and it's just like you almost one hit die, and it's like you're supposed to die because that's how the story starts. But I also very much love that you can beat the Vanguard boss if you have a little bit of skill underneath you, or maybe you did a playthrough already, and then you die in the next scene to keep the story going. And I love that they do that, and they don't like cop out. Like one that I always bring up as an example is Ghost of Tsushima. You encounter the first main antagonist like right in the beginning, and you have a fight against them on this bridge, and the boss cannot die. If you get them down to 1 HP, they won't go below 1 HP, no matter what, because they're supposed to kill you there. And I hate that. I hate that in games where
it's fixed. The fix is in. Right?
Yeah.
I hate that so much.
And
like, why make me fight at all? Yeah, it's just annoying.
And you see that in other games, like again, I hate to bring it up, like I'm so like, hey, if Xbox made more games, I would use their games as an example. But like, let's bring up God of War. So like, I hate. I get those like cinematic QTE events are cool, and I don't know, like, and sometimes they feel cool, but like when you're putting like 2 or 3 of those moments in one boss fight, you feel like you're on rails. Like, you feel like the outcome is already predetermined, and no matter what you're doing, like, it doesn't make a difference, because like you're supposed to hit these key moments. And I'm not a fan of that, but there's people that love that shit, and I'm just like, I don't get it. I feel like I'm not playing. Like, I feel like I'm just like, I'm in for a show.
Just make it a full cutscene for me. That's just for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care about doing something that's just the illusion of me doing something.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I feel we've kind of strayed away from your core mechanic there, but I feel like when, especially with bosses, have like, you can have an intro cutscene and it's just like, basically they're like, we're gonna fight, and then have your boss battle, and then at the end have a cutscene, and then do whatever the hell you want, but leave it at that. But don't have like in between. Like, people love in God of War Ragnarok, where like it's like the first fight against Thor, and then like you die, and then he's like, you're not getting out of this so easy, and then he brings you back to life, and then you but it goes to the death screen. And then the people who made that game probably like had the biggest hard-ons when they made that, but like in reality, I'm like, that is the dumbest thing ever. Like, imagine so like you're playing Elden Ring and it goes to the you died screen, and then you like get brought back to life, and it's like, nope, and then you're like, I'd be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it's stupid. I didn't like it.
So this week's mechanical talk was like, we hate this mechanic. Okay, let's get into something a little bit more positive. This is a great idea that Max came up with. Again, we missed you, Max, because of just fucking gems like this. So Max had a great question that he wanted to pose to all of us. What is everyone's favorite type of side quest in games? And Max, we'll let you go first.
Okay, well, I think that the game that I thought of when I was thinking about this question was, here I am talking about Final Fantasy 12 again, but which is they're called hunts, and it's basically like you fight progressively stronger and stronger like enemies out in the wild. So people will put up in the game, they'll put up in shops a post for like, oh, go and a reward, a bounty for this monster that's out XYZ somewhere that you have to go find. And you progressively go and fight stronger and stronger enemies. And I love the type of side quest where there's just like a checklist, I guess. And
you rank up as you go. Yeah. And
you rank up as you go. There's a really good sense of satisfaction with I think they're called elite hunts in Final Fantasy 12, or marks, essentially. And then in that particular game, it culminates with an enemy called Yazmat, which has 50 million HP, and it takes 4 hours to beat. And it's like become notorious in the Final Fantasy community for like one of the strongest bosses ever, and it's so cool. And it's like, I started out fighting this tomato, which is literally the first mark that you go fight is a tomato, and then you're fighting this dragon that's the size of like a shopping mall.
You kill some white moose along the way.
Yeah, and it's just really cool. So it's a checklist. It's a sense of progression. You not only you feel cool, but then the NPCs give you like small rewards, like maybe a weapon or a little bit of money. But yeah, for me that would be my my
mega
answer.
ether
Or what?
A mega ether, like those are always super rare.
Yeah, mega elixir.
Yeah, mega elixir. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Is that the first Final Fantasy where that mechanic was incorporated, or that type of side quest? Because I know that's also in Final Fantasy 16. There's a board and there's
it was in 10. It was in 10 a little bit because I just played that and wrote my review. There's a little bit, like they started that, but nowhere near as much. Like there's like 8 of them, and in Final Fantasy 12 there's like 50 of them. Like it just goes on and on. So they really fleshed it out. I don't remember if like 9 had that.
I don't recall that. I just played through 9.
But yeah, it was so well done. And I've seen other games since that have tried to do that. Like even 15 had like a really similar mechanic to 12 where there was a side quest for these monster hunts. But I just didn't like 15, so I stopped playing.
Just to piggyback off of that, Final Fantasy 14, the online MMO, that has that basic exact system from 12, except they're cool. Weekly. And not just that, it's also a random spawn. And then as soon as it's seen, everyone in the general chat will be like, it's here, it's spawned, and nice. Everyone will go there and like 40 people will there and take it down. So it's really cool like multiplayer version of the Final Fantasy 12 system. It's cool they've incorporated into that. That's how obviously loved it was from Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay, I like that. Okay, Max's is pretty good. Wara, what do you got?
So just side quests. I'm just thinking of specific side quests. Like I'm just going to use The Witcher 3, 2 examples from The Witcher 3. The side quest that I love is when you get Erendite, which is a very long side quest that takes in consideration your choices from the DLC, the Blood and Wine DLC. And you have to do certain things in the correct way for you to be what's the word? Where your status aligns with what's the word? Like you can't be a scoundrel and be earn the right to have it.
Oh, I see what your reputation or.
Yeah, sort of it's a reputation that you don't know is happening when you're making decisions. But if you're not a dropkick and an idiot or an asshole, then you are. I can't remember King Arthur pulls the sword out of the stone. It's effectively that story because he's what's the word that he's. I'm drawing a major
chosen
blank.
One. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like he's
the heir to the throne. He's
what's the word? What about Thor's hammer? When you pick that up, you have to be what's the word Thor uses? Worthy. That's it. Yeah. Fuck. There we go. Worthy. Jesus Christ! It took me way too long. I'm sorry. Worthy. So
it's complicated when you're on a podcast and there's a bunch of shit going on. Like I'm looking at 18 different things here, so I forget words all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Max has made fun of me because I forgot the word root on a tree. I was like, I don't know, that thing that goes out the bottom of a tree like a branch, and then
in your Dark Souls 3 guide.
People are like, does he mean fucking root? Who forgets the word root? And I'm like, there's a lot of shit going on. Worthy. I love long drawn out. You have to do a lot of stuff to get this. I love those sort of side quests that are, you don't need to do it for the story. It doesn't have any bearing on the story, but you get something really cool at the end, and there's heaps of fun things along the way, and you're looking back on other things you've done, and anyway. So I like that type of side quest, but I also like small ones that poke fun at the fact that you're like a god effectively. This is not really used, you're not really a god in The Witcher at all, but in other games where you might be like a god and you're doing a task that anyone in town could do, but you're specifically chosen to do it, but the quest will poke fun in some way, and it acknowledges, breaking the fourth wall, it acknowledges that this is a meaningless task, but it's giving you the quest and it's something funny. But the quest I was thinking about, I was talking to my missus about it this morning, is the Witcher 3 quest where you have to find a lady's pot, and then she's so happy to have it back, but was annoyed that it was washed. And that was what she wanted you to do. But just is it just a dumb little quest? It didn't take long, and it just I sort of like those quests where they're just a little bit more fun and upbeat, or ones that are really long and in depth, and you get something amazing at the end. So
nice.
Okay, so mine's kind of similar to Wara's, but for me, my favorite quests, again, because I'm a fanboy, I suck off Miyazaki on the reg, is FromSoftware's completely random side quests that are completely optional content, and then they have some of the most amazing content behind them.
Yeah.
So let's start with Demon Souls. You have to get a fucking enemy character's hat to be able to impersonate them, and then there's like a special jail key that you got to get, and then you go and then you kill another guy, and then you get another piece of his clothing, or you get something else, and then you're able to open up this secret hidden gate, and then you go to this building, and then you put the hat on, and because you have the hat on, you're impersonating that enemy, and then a ladder drops down, and then you get to a completely optional NPC that can teach you like dark sorceries and dark incantations. And that's where it all began, like the most random side quest ever. And then FromSoftware, each game that they put out, they've been like, all right, bet we'll one up that.
Yeah.
The one I always think of is Dark Souls 3 getting to Archdragon Peak. So like, just how did anyone figure that out? Like how random that is. Like
gesturing at the
statue.
The statue.
Yeah.
So like you go, like you're going down through Lothric Castle, and then you go the other path that takes you to Osiris, and then you beat him, and then behind him is a random gesture, and you're like, sweet, a gesture I'm never gonna use, right? And then the progression through there doesn't even lead you to where you need to go. You got to go back to another area that you may have been to before, and there's a random spot with a dragon NPC or just like a statue sitting right there, kind of just sitting down, and then you like sit there, and it takes you to a whole optional map. So content that's completely separate from the main game's content. You're not required to beat the game. Completely new area with 2 new bosses.
Yeah.
And like, I love it. Like, I'm just like, what the hell? Like, you're just like, how does any of that connect to each other? And then I love that they continually try to one up themselves and make these like completely random events happen. And like, if you need to look up a guide to do it, who cares? But like, you're still like, when you're going through it, you're like, what were they thinking when they made this?
Like, look at the approaches in side content from FromSoftware versus like Ubisoft. Ubisoft would be like, there is a side quest to do right here, you should go do it. Whereas FromSoftware is like whole area not accessible unless you do this really random thing or you Google it. Like, they don't care if you skip this content because they want you to find it organically, or obviously you can search it online, obviously, but it's just like they're not trying to force, like, look how much we've got down your throat. Like,
it shows so much courage on their part that they like are willing to let you completely skip arguably some of the best areas in some of their games are optional hidden areas, and they're fine with you playing through the whole game and like missing that shit. Like, we're good. Like, we know, we're so confident in like our base game that like we're gonna hide all this other stuff out here that's also incredible, but you can see it or you cannot.
I love that. Like, same with like Sekiro, you can roll credits on that game and like miss out on a huge chunk of it. Like, if you do the Shura ending, like the bad ending, like you could just like screw yourself over out of like a whole chunk of the game. But I love that. And just like you guys kind of brought up, like any other AAA developer, you would have a huge flashing quest thing on your screen, or like the NPC has like a huge arrow or like golden aura to be like talk to them and stuff like that. And then FromSoftware is like, fuck you, if you miss it, you miss it. It's just like, play it again if you want to. Like, we don't give a shit what you do. Like, we know that we make this amazing stuff, but
and then the happy medium is sort of like getting shown the side content or something like that to incentivize you to do it, like on a main quest. Here's this thing. That's sort of like a happy middle ground. Like, that type of implementation I like too. But
what really appealed about that to me personally is like growing up playing a lot of these games on like Super Nintendo and even Nintendo 64. We always like made up like schoolyard rumors. Like, we'd be like, oh, like there's actually like a hidden level in Super Mario World and you have to like beat the game 10 times and then like this door unlocks. All bullshit. But that's what I love about FromSoft games, is like those types of things are true. There's random things that you can do that open up completely
crazy
random
stuff. Yeah.
and I love that.
That's good.
Okay, so we all talked about what our favorite type of side quest is. I want to flip it on all of you. And what is everyone's least favorite type of side quest? Go. We'll start with you, Max.
Whew. I don't know. Maybe something that involves like a lot of talking or like reading.
Yeah.
A lot of text. I haven't actually given that any thought. Like I did think of my favorite example, but yeah, maybe like the types. I don't know, like the types of things that I dislike. If a game.
What about those moments in games where like you're just trailing an NPC and then you're getting dialogue and like that's the whole thing. Like you can't.
Well, yeah, maybe like I think that also kind of goes hand in hand with like bad pacing or like just bad game direction. Is like where they're forcing you to do side quests, or they're just like forcing you to. They're breaking up the core game on purpose for the point of having some sort of like filler shit, you know what I mean? Instead of like just going on with the game, like, and that happens too often, I think, where they feel like they need to insert like, oh, like we gotta look at our, you know, they have their storyboard or whatever, and they're like, okay, well we gotta have something here. Like, no, you don't. Like
this game will end in 10 hours unless we put these moments in there, and you're like, if you've only got 10 hours of tight content, make it a 10-hour game. Like, stop doing that.
When those types of examples become like very obvious, like, yeah, that shit bugs me.
Yeah. How about you, Wara?
Yeah, so similar to what Max just said. Similar to that, but more of like the auto failing if you don't protect an NPC while you're slow walking and they're talking and dialogue and just that stuff. It's Final Fantasy 14 on like the MMO that I just mentioned before. You do a lot of these ones where you got to like follow them within a ring and protect them as enemies spawn. So I don't like it when side content is then just pushed onto the player who may just want to just complete the whole main story and not deal with side content. That sort of incentivization to be like, engage with our side content, you know, fill in more time, do this, that, and the other. I don't really like that, because if it's your main story, then sort of incorporate it into the main story more so than that sort of incentivization to go across and engage with that content, especially when, like I said, some people just want a shorter game. They only want to do the main story. They don't care about the side stuff. While I love a lot of side content in games, I'm the type of person who wants to do everything. I know people like yourself, Jimmy, you prefer to just main story it out, and that's just, you know, everyone's different and it's just a preference. But even though I like doing side content, I like it being more because I want to, not because I have to. And the last thing I want in a game is to be directed and feel like I'm working. And that's just how these side content, like sometimes side content can feel. It just feels like a job. You know what I mean? And that's the failure of remembering the games.
It there is just like, I like the side content when it's optional. I don't like the side content when I'm being forced to do it. Yeah. So that brings up, this isn't my personal one, but it brings up a great point. Again, recently in Star Wars Outlaws, like your whole push to progress the story is you need money to fix up your ship because you crashed your ship and you need parts for the ship. So you're doing little odd jobs to get money so you can buy these parts. And then you get the money, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, before we can fix the ship, you need to go get your speeder upgraded. And you're like, but why? Like, we're fixing the ship to leave here. And then they're like, just trust me, bro. And then you gotta go fucking do a thing to upgrade your speeder bike for no reason.
It feels super forced, right?
Yeah, and you're just like, this completely takes me out of immersion. Whereas if you're invested in a game world or a story and you're doing all this stuff and you're progressing the main story, and when you are invested, you're like, well, what else is out there? And then that gets you curious, and that gets you wanting to try the outside stuff or the optional stuff. So I totally agree with that. My least favorite, for sure, by far, is stealth missions. I hate stealth missions. Like stealth missions that have an insta fail. I hate those so much. especially when they make you play as a different character than the main character, and all that character has is a bit of stealth. Like a game that does that where I didn't really mind is Resident Evil 4, where you play as I forget her name.
Ashley.
Yeah, you play as Ashley, and then all she has is the blue light, and then and you're creeping through there. That's not so bad. But like when I played games like Spider-Man Remastered, and like you have to play as Mary Jane, and like she can't do shit, and then she gets caught, like you're done. Same with Ghost of Tsushima. Like there was like insta-fail missions where like if you get caught, you just the mission fails and you have to restart. And I just completely hate those. Like there's moments in Sekiro where you need to sneak in places, but if you get caught, you just knife those dudes. You just
There's
Just
a
start
plan B
blasting.
at that point.
you just katana their ass, and then it's just like, all right, well they can't say anything because they're dead. So, like other games
exactly.
they're like, nope, you're caught. You didn't go the path that we designed for you to go on. Like, again, that makes me feel like I'm not playing a game. It makes me feel like I'm on rails. Like I'm just on a train track and I'm like going through the motions here. So developers out there, I know you're all watching the BGR podcast or you're checking it out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But if you're thinking about putting an insta-fail stealth mission in your game, don't. Or if you do, just make sure you spruce up your resume beforehand because you're probably going to get let go.
Fucking jeez.
Brutal.
Jesus.
Harsh.
You know how I get my maximum pump? When I'm listening to the BGR podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. There's nothing better than getting some games while I'm listening to the S-tier gaming discussions on the Face Game Reviews podcast. Go follow them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts today. Gotta get back to my workout. 100 sets to go.
And I think that's a perfect segment, our perfect segue to go into Max's time to beat. So
Let's go.
Max's time to beat.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
get the binder up, baby.
All right, binder's ready. Yeah, so forgive me. I might be looking down at my notes a little bit, but I'm gonna try and stay focused.
Because he
I'll
cares.
be on camera. Okay, so who remembers this game?
Of course.
Oh my
Not
god, my
me.
green
I
screen
didn't
is
play it.
shit in the bed.
Unfortunately.
I'll put it next to my head. The green screen is really shit in the bed. Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker.
I'll hastily paste the cover.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you should have got the cover to like walk up behind you slowly and then.
Yeah.
So so neither of you have played this?
I played it up until I think when you get your own canoe and your own sail. Like you have to go to the island and get the sail.
Okay.
And that was just recently too.
Second island, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay,
I
yeah.
haven't played this one.
Very
Wind
initial
Waker.
part of the game.
Waro was saying he never had a GameCube, so
Yeah, I didn't, unfortunately.
okay. Well, hopefully, some of the gamers listening will be able to follow a little bit. I'm gonna try not to fill
Some
in
real gamers.
too many details, otherwise this. Yeah, some real gamers.
I'm gonna
Otherwise,
crush that fucking game as soon as we log off.
Max is like, I'm leaving again next week. You guys
Yeah.
are jokes.
Yeah, here I'm taking another week off. Maybe you guys can play some real games in between.
Outlaws boy.
Yeah.
so good. But
Sorry,
anyhow,
go.
I personally replayed this game not that long ago with my mint condition GameCube copy on my modded Japanese GameCube with a HDMI adapter on my LG TV, and it looks great. And it's such a good game. It holds up really well. I did get really sick and tired of the sailing, I'll be honest, and I actually didn't finish the game because of that. And it's funny how forgiving we are as teenagers, or when you're young and naive and you just don't know any better, and we accept a lot more, right? And then now in my mid 30s, I'm like, this is dumb. Like, I'm not putting up with this, right? Like, I've seen enough. I've played enough games. I have enough experience now where I'm like, okay, good mechanic, bad mechanic. Back in the day, I was just enamored by the cell shade graphics and the music, and I was like, it's Zelda. Of course I'll play this. Anyhow, I'm going off topic. So our story for The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker begins in 2005. I'm going to do things a little differently this week. I did do a deep dive on this, and I want to talk a little bit about, we'll get into like the world record speed run, but I wanted to talk about a bit of the history because it's a really incredible history of some really amazing gamers that have contributed to this game. And it goes all the way back to 2005. So 2005, Blockbuster's still in business. iPhone's not out yet. Probably don't have a laptop. YouTube is in its infancy. Like the internet is a whole different world, right?
It was still Google Video.
Google Video. People were talking to girls on MSN. Oh my God. So at that time, the only way to submit a speed run was to mail a VHS to Speed Demos Archive. And that is where the first recorded Wind Waker speed run was from. In 2005, a runner named Marshmallow got a 7-hour and 8-minute speed run. And so at this time, this is the first documented run. There's no major glitches that have been discovered. It's essentially a casual run of the game.
Yeah.
With some optimization.
It was like a slightly faster than normal casual run at that point.
7 hours.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. How do you get all that on one VHS?
I don't know.
Only like 4
dude,
hours
like
max?
you could record like 8 hours, and like some VHSs were like 12 hours.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. I remember the
fine.
Titanic being on 2 VHSs back in the day. I had a
Yeah,
copy
that's
of
what I
Titanic.
thought.
And that movie's
Yeah,
only
it's
like
the
4
double
hours. So
pack.
Yeah, there was
but-
like,
Good question.
we could go
Yeah,
into
sorry,
it, but
yeah.
I remember
That's
there
right.
being like VHSs that were like meant for recording a lot of content, like for, I don't know. I'm old.
Maybe the Titanic
So-
one was just, maybe it's just about worry about stretch. I don't know. Anyway, it's all
Maybe.
good. It's
But yeah,
fine.
so
Continue.
a
Yep.
7-hour speed run was mailed in on a VHS, and that was the first
Nice,
documented run of the Wind Waker. So fast forward 7 years, nothing between 2005 and 2012 really changed. Nobody was pushing the boundaries of this game. Nobody was really contributing. Again, like this is the early age of the internet. Information's passing really slowly. A lot of these platforms that we take for granted nowadays don't even exist. So it wasn't until 2012 that the next actual like documented speedrun was broken. 7 years later, a runner named Giano got a 6-hour 16 world record. And this was the first time the glitch called zombie hovering was implemented in a run. So this is our first major glitch for this speed run, which is still used to this day for the current world record. The way zombie hovering works is there's a few frames where Link can perform an input just before the death animation. And by jump slashing during this time and continuously mashing the B button, you can create a cycle of jumps where Link will gain, he'll basically rise up. He just floats up into the air.
Okay.
The problem with this is it's not about mashing the B button as fast as you can. There's actually a rhythm to this.
Yeah.
The Wind Waker runs at 30 frames per second, and if you mash any faster than that, the game will lose inputs, and Link will actually like start lowering or losing height. So they're essentially smashing B as fast as they can with accuracy. And even now today, like with the most optimized runs, you'll see runners like where Link will go up and then he'll drop for a second, then he'll go up. But this is an incredibly precise.
I wonder if any of them use metronomes to like.
Some runners are using 2 thumbs. They'll go like this on the B button because it's like humanly impossible to do it with one hand, right?
Yeah.
So incredible feat of just dexterity. But the problem with the zombie hovering glitch is that the moment Link lands on solid ground, he dies. So they got around this by using the Game Boy Advance Tingle tuner. And so I don't know if you guys remember Tingle in
I missed out on a lot as a young kid.
yeah. So a lot of GameCube games had like the Game Boy Advance that you could use as a peripheral tool to like Legend of Zelda 4 Swords, for example. 4 friends could link up and play that game with 4 Game Boy Advances. And there were quite a few other games that used the Game Boy Advance as a peripheral with GameCube games. And so in Wind Waker, you could do the same thing. You could interact with Tingle, and he would give you like hints and show you things on your map using this Game Boy Advance. So when they discovered this, that Link could survive the zombie hover with the Game Boy Advance, they split the run into 2 runs, one with the Tingle Tuner and one without the Tingle Tuner.
Okay.
So Giano only
By
submitted.
choice, I'm always going to go with Tingle Tuner.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a Tingle boy every day
I
of the
don't
week.
know. I wasn't able to discover like what other routes were used that didn't include it, but essentially that was like the meta at the time, was to use the Game Boy Advance to survive the zombie hover glitch. So this runner Giano only ever submitted 2 runs, but his contributions inspired one of the best known runners in the game's history to start running the Wind Waker. Enter Narcissa Wright, aka Cosmo. I don't know if either of you are familiar with Narcissa Wright, but they were very famous for running Ocarina of Time back in the day. Legendary speedrunner, and essentially once they burnt out on Ocarina of Time, they went into Wind Waker and started breaking world records all over again. So in May of 2012, Narcissa lowered the record to under 6 hours, thanks to a new glitch called forest water storage. Now this glitch is insane. It's equal parts impressive and scary at the same time. Essentially what happens is there's an area in the game called Forest Haven where Link can fill a bottle with this water, the spring water, and he can use this to go all around the game and use its magical properties to do all different types of things. The problem is the magical water only lasts 20 minutes. This is where the glitch exploit comes in. At the very frame where you get the text box that pops up that says your spring water has turned back to regular water, gamers can equip the Wind Waker, and the text box will freeze on screen, but also give you control of Link. So essentially you're stuck in like a cutscene camera angle, but you have control of Link. And this opened up all kinds of crazy new glitches and exploits. But just think about that for a second. This glitch is a frame perfect glitch, and it's only available every 20 minutes. So you can imagine like the heartache of having to reset runs.
Yeah.
You're like,
especially when you're in hour 4, hour 5.
terrible. So Narcissa achieved the first sub 6 hour run using this glitch. Also, despite having been playing the game on the English version, which was known to be a full 13 minutes slower compared to Japanese. And at this time, this is a real breakthrough in speedrunning history, because Narcissa, aka Cosmo, had such a big following. They were such a leader in speedrunning community. A lot of people started taking note, and actually a whole bunch of games started switching to the Japanese version for their speedruns, just because of how much fewer text you would have to go through over the course of the game. This would save minutes, and 13 minutes in a speedrun is gigantic. So with the Japanese version in hand and a few more small optimizations, the first sub 5 hour run was set in that same year, 2012, 4:58. Now, 2 years prior to this, a glitch hunter named Clyde Storm was investigating the forest water storage. That's with the bottle and the magic water. And he accidentally discovered one of the biggest glitches in the game called Super Swim. I don't know if either of you have ever... I don't know if either of you have ever seen a Wind Waker speedrun, but Super Swim is hysterical to witness. This cut out essentially every sailing section in the game, so you would never have to use your boat again, and saved over 30 minutes. The problem with this trick, it was like physically so impossible to perform consistently that nobody even bothered trying it in speedruns for over 2 years. They knew about it, but people were too scared to try this trick.
I can just imagine you watching this, Max, and being like, how does one learn this power? Because you hate the sailing sections.
So I'll explain it briefly. Essentially, I already mentioned the game runs at 30 frames per second. So to perform Super Swim, you have to get out of your boat. Link's swimming around in the water. You're moving the analog stick back and forth with your thumb or whatever you want on every frame. And essentially he'll go back and forth, and this builds up what's called negative speed. And because it's physically impossible to do 30 movements per second, what they'll do is they'll flick the joystick as fast as they can, build up speed, and then for the rest of the speed that they need, they'll pause buffer the game. So they'll pause and unpause and pause and unpause. I'm not doing it justice explaining it, but it's essentially like that's how they would build up enough speed that they need for the game to break, essentially. Like you're tearing apart the physics of the game. And then once that speed is reached, Link just essentially like rockets across the ocean, like faster than like a rocket ship, like all the way across, and he's flying essentially. So they never had to use the boat anymore once this was discovered. So back to September of 2012, same year, two glitch hunters, Abba Bob and Glitches and Stuff, discovered dry storage. So this removed having to wait for the 20 minutes for the water bottle, and they found a new way of essentially getting into that state where the camera was locked and Link could still move around without having to use the water. And that was massive, because obviously like that was the biggest pain in the ass ever, to have to reset your runs every 20 minutes, right? Waiting for this glitch that was frame perfect. So they figured out how to do dry storage. At this point, the game became incredibly broken, as getting to the storage state would let Link walk through doors rather, skip cutscenes, and basically like walk up vertical walls and stuff. Like they could just do all kinds. It just broke it right apart. And so at this point in the game's history, Narcissa was the speedrunner, like the Michael Jordan of Wind Waker, right? And but a new challenger was about to emerge. Late in 2012, a runner named Demon got the first got a new world record using this dry storage technique. At this time, this was super exciting because the world record was going back and forth between these two runners. Every month, they were breaking each other's records, and it was just like must-see TV, right? Like, who's going to get it next? Like shaving off like 14 seconds, 30 seconds, like Narcissa and Demon back and forth. It was the golden era of Wind Waker, if you will. And during this time, a new glitch was discovered, which involved getting bombs early, and it all culminated in a run by Narcissa in late 2013 of under 4.5 hours. This actually ended up being Narcissa's last run of the Wind Waker. Naturally, Demon broke this record shortly after, but with the main competition gone, he decided to take a break from the game. It was a full 3 years. Once these two runners left, a full 3 years before any new records were broken for the Wind Waker. New runners came onto the scene, and this provoked Demon to come out of retirement and trade with them, and he eventually became the first to achieve a sub 4-hour run in 2015. He went on another hiatus, and this let a new runner rise to the top naturally, someone named Ace, who broke his own record about every couple of weeks for about 6 months until he got burnt out. It wasn't until 2019 that the next major game-breaking glitch called Barrier Skip, this one's my favorite, that Barrier Skip was found, that the game's community really started, it peaked again, and everybody started paying attention, and people were trying to break world records again. So Barrier Skip is amazing. Okay, so near the end of the game, Link gains access to Hyrule Castle and the surrounding area. The developers, however, put a unimaginably tall and deep and wide surrounding invisible cylinder around this, right? So there's no way you can get through this. Outside of this cylinder is also an invisible knockback wall where if you walk into it, Link receives damage every single frame. So what you're supposed to do at this point is go on some gigantic fetch quest to gather Triforce shards in the ocean, so the developers are like, no, you're not getting through this. This gigantic barrier is you can't. No tools Link possesses can go above it, under it, around it, whatever. Until they did find a way.
Yeah.
So, data miners and glitch hunters and speedrunners all working together using like tools to actually, what they're called, like tool assisted
they're called helpers.
Software. Yeah. Tool assisted software to like look into the behind the scenes of the game.
Yeah.
Figured out that this barrier has a 1 pixel seam in it.
Oh my God.
And these fucking developers, in their overconfidence, put the fucking seal
idiots
at the front, right on the bridge where you're supposed to go through it, not like in the back or on the side. So there's literally this gigantic barrier with a knockback wall and an invisible wall that you're never getting through, but they put a 1 pixel entrance right at the front. And so they found a way to
Sounds like the Death Star.
To get into the exact angle and frame and position to get into this 1 pixel area. Link drops a bomb, and what happens is when Link drops a bomb, it won't let Link and the bomb exist in the same area, so it actually pushes him through by the game's design so that he can enter through this 1 pixel frame in the barrier. And at this point, 2 hours of the game is skipped. Like, it's broken at this point. They've cut out a gigantic portion of the game.
So good.
So good. So the credit is for Dragon Bane, who was the glitch hunter who discovered the first original barrier skip, this 1 pixel entrance. A runner named Gymnast86 was the first to set a world record using this new method. And then in the summer of 2019, guess who? Our boy Demon comes out of retirement again, and gets the first 2 hours.
Demon's back in the ring, baby.
Let's drop some
2
bombs.
hour speed run of the Wind Waker. So a runner named Linkus7 and Demon traded world records for several months again until Linkus7 lowered it to 1 hour and 4 minutes in December of 2019. Since then, barrier skip has been modified. The setup is a lot easier. I think actually I have to correct myself. Dragon Bane was the one who discovered the original method, which I didn't talk about, but we don't have time today. But since then, the new method is the one I talked about, where they find this 1 pixel seam in the barrier to sneak through. That's the current pathing, if you will, for the world record. And in February of 2020, our boy Demon set the first sub 1 hour.
That's nuts.
World record of
Demon will not give up.
So this brings us to the current world record of the game. It is, as you can see, like this the community is incredibly, alive and has been for years, and the competition has never been fiercer. This game has created legends out of some gamers, and world records have been traded back and forth like daily sometimes. So the fact that the current world record right now as it stands hasn't been contested for over a year is very impressive. The gamer that I want to shout out today, his name is Aloha Kirby from Switzerland, who is the current world record holder at 52 minutes and 19 seconds.
That is
The Legend of Zelda: The Wind
crazy.
Waker.
And does he have that on VHS?
DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So I've watched the run a couple of times, and with my elementary understanding of a lot of these glitches, and obviously having never performed them myself, I was able to follow along to a degree and see like what he was doing, and it's still not perfect, right? Like a lot of the setups he had to attempt multiple times, so there's still room for improvement. Like as difficult as they are, he pulled some of them off, but some of the glitches, like you said, like had to 2 or 3 times to pull one of them off, and but it's amazing. Like I got a lot of this information from a documentary that I will shout out, the incredible speedrun history of Zelda: The Wind Waker. The channel's called Lowest Percent. So if anyone's interested in this game or more detail about the speedrun, they'll explain it with pictures, and you can take it to the next level. And some of the things I've discussed today, definitely worth checking out that documentary on a classic game.
Love it. We'll put that in the link in the description for sure. But like, It's just crazy. Like you take a speed run that went from like a full 8-hour shift basically, and you bring it down to under an hour. And it just goes to show you like how far the advancement of like some of these tools that you can do, and just like the community as well. So like there's people that like have no intentions of speedrunning the game, but they're like, but I want to find like these little seams and collisions. So like that's what I'll do for 8 hours, is just like look for these little breaks and the cracks and stuff like that. And the people who make these helper tools that you can put on like emulators and stuff, so you can like turn off the graphics and just see like all the framework or like the collision in the map and things like that, or people who just look at the game code and be like, oh, like you can cancel an input by doing this because the game's coded that way. Like it's just insane the community involvement that it takes to achieve some of these world records. And you just think like the poor guy who submitted the first one on VHS, like all they had was their GameCube. Like they didn't have a dev kit. They couldn't do any of that shit. So they essentially just played the game fast.
That's it.
But that was an awesome story. So I love it. Thank you. Another awesome time to
thanks,
beat.
Max.
I think that's a good segue into our next topic here. Skill issue. Are some gamers just bad at gaming? So the reason why this topic comes up is, again, there are games that take a little bit of time, like Elden Ring being one of them, The Witcher 3, a lot of the Final Fantasy games, they have these really long main story campaigns. For me personally, like I like to compare my time against howlongtobeat.com, and I feel like they're very accurate because it's just user submissions there. But what are your guys' thoughts on, like, let's say you beat a game in 50 hours, and then there always seems to be that one player that's just like, oh, my first playthrough I spent 150 hours, and then you're like, oh, were you platinuming the game or getting the 100%? They're like, no, I was just playing the main story. And you're like, how are you 3 times what were you doing? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Like that's the topic for today. So Max, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so that literally is my first playthrough of Elden Ring and your first playthrough of Elden Ring. And I think people play games differently. I don't know if it's a matter of skill, but I will say, like, for me, and I wrote about this in my Elden Ring review, like, I'm the type of person that'll just sit there and like stare at the scenery, and I'll like move the camera around, and I'll just like, I like to just like, I'm like, I'm not running through the game. I'm really like trying to like look at the details, admire the architecture, like, as stupid as that sounds, like, really just, you know, slow down and see like what they've built. And I know for me, like that contributed to my lengthy 157-hour first playthrough of Elden Ring. I definitely sucked at that game as well, and like I found it difficult. Compared to other Souls games, I found it difficult. But I don't know if that is a skill issue, because I consider myself like a veteran Souls player. Like, I've platinumed all the Dark Souls games, even the original Demon Souls. Or FromSoft games rather. So I don't know. For me, for sure, there are people that play less games than other people too, and it's a matter of dexterity, and it's a matter of skill. There is skill in there, but I don't think that's the entire story. Because I know for me, like I said, for me personally, dude, I will run around and just like move the camera just to like look at the lens flare coming in, you know, like at the sun, from the sun. Like I'm that guy in a lot of games.
A secondary question for you specifically is, when you did your first playthrough of Elden Ring, did you look at any guides whatsoever, or look anything up on like how to do any of the quests or like anything, or did you just like do it like raw dog it yourself?
I wasn't concerned in like, oh, what ending am I going to get? But I definitely, like, when I got stuck, I looked up guides like for bosses.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I thought that might have been a component, because like straight up, I forgot about that, because my first playthrough was like 51 hours. And then so like yours is above 150. So, and I was just like, okay, Because like I get it. Like there are times where I definitely like look, but like I think like we're on very different opposite ends of the spectrum in this case, because I definitely felt pressure to finish that game first because I wanted to make content with it. So like I was like, I'm gonna like I want to play as efficiently as possible. I want to get through a lot of this. So like that could be a thing that it was impeding me. But Wara, what's your take on this?
So yeah, a couple of things. First, wanted to sort of mention, and I'll come around to as to why it makes it's valid here. Is Max made a comment before about the Wind Waker and how we didn't really acknowledge bad mechanics as teens, and the reason I bring this up, and it's a good point, and I agree with the point, is some people say, oh, as gamers today, we complain too much and stuff like that, but I think that critiquing things is important, and being critical of things can help you improve and things like that. So while I think that what just the time to beat isn't really meaning a skill issue, as Max said, I think that some people just play games to get away and just get involved in a game, and that's just what they enjoy doing, and they're not trying to make it I want to try and push myself or overcome a difficult situation. Because I was talking to you yesterday, Jimmy, about this sort of similar topic, and how there's some people who go out on the water, like water skiing, jet skiing. They do it all the time, and like I've been water skiing since I was like 10. I've been water skiing, and I'm not boasting myself, but I'm not a bad water skier, right? But I only go.
Brag.
No. Like I want to say without seeming like I'm bragging. I'm not a competitive. Like my uncle was a competitive water skier, right? He's really good. But like I water ski like 10 times a year because it's only during summer. And then you see other people out there who water ski like nearly every month except for in winter, and they're just really good at water skiing. Whereas my grandpa is 70, or he's 80 now. But he water skied until he was 75. He'd have to like go around and drop a ski once he hit over 70. And so he can go to one ski because he couldn't get out of the water on one because he was so old. But he's no good at water skiing. What I mean by that is he doesn't cut hard. He doesn't do anything that's overly special. But he's been water skiing for 50 years, right? So what my point is, bringing that back to gaming, is we have people who've been gaming for 30 years. But they've been gaming and not trying to push their skill level up. The same with sort of Magic the Gathering or chess. Another one is chess. You have people who have been playing chess probably their whole life, but if you actually got a rating on them, their rating might be like 1200 or less. It doesn't mean that they're like bad. They're just not playing it competitively. So a lot of people who take a single player game and they don't play it competitively, in quotations, they're just playing the game to finish. Whereas you admitted yourself, Jimmy, you wanted to finish Elden Ring quickly to put content out. And I remember you said that the skill point for you was the gold skin duos, and you had to switch from a strength build because they were just a nightmare with your build. And like you didn't, you really wanted to finish it quickly. And I
did not want to replay that. Like I think I did that fight like 20 times, and I was like, okay, something like it's a skill issue, or like I'm missing something here. It's before we knew that you could just sleep pot them. And then I was like, I watched other people on Twitch just fucking annihilate them with spells, and I was like, okay, I'll just go respec as a sorcerer, and I just respec as a sorcerer. And then I went in there, and I think I just like cast Comet, and I just like annihilated them, and then I was like, all right, and I switched back to my other build, and I just like finished the game. So like some people were playing games and they're trying, like when I play games, a lot of games, like not every game but a lot of games, I just like want to challenge myself, want to get better, want to push, want to try and complete it really quickly. God of War Ragnarok, my stats, not God of War Ragnarok, God of War 2018, my platinum for that is in like, it says on PlayStation like 32 hours. Like clearly I pushed as hard as I could to get it done quickly, to get that platinum quickly. And so I don't think that everyone who takes a long time is going to be a low skill player. I think everyone has different play styles. However, what I want to say is that people who are playing Astrobot, some of them are saying that the game's too difficult. And I think that it's not being derogatory or being negative or being mean by
acknowledging some people are better gamers than others. And when I say better, I just mean higher skilled, lower skilled. Because in everything I do in my spare time, every hobby, I don't get upset when other people have been let's use boxing for a shorter period than me, and they're better than me. That doesn't make me upset. Some people are just naturally better. And, unless I was actually trying to be a professional gamer or a professional boxer, would it bother me? I just want to be the best I can be. But when people sort of try and get everything changed to suit them specifically, I'm like, maybe you need to acknowledge that possibly there's a chance that if you took 37 hours to finish Astrobot, there's a chance that you're just one of those casual, take it easy gamers, and that's fine. And it's not being derogatory. If that's what you said, wasn't it, Jimmy, that someone took 37 hours to complete it?
Yeah, I saw somebody on Twitter, and because it was funny because you said, like, I remember you showed me that you beat it, and like, but it was from the inaccurate PlayStation email, so you did it in like 5 hours, and I was like, damn. And I was isn't the Playroom game that you get with PS5, like, doesn't that only take a couple hours? And I was like, isn't this a full game? And I was like, I thought it'd be a bit longer than that. And then I looked up Astrobot on how long to beat, and it says about 9-10 hours. And then so when I see somebody that posted that they took 30 something hours to beat it, I was like, what are they doing? And I'm like, were they trying to 100% it? And they're like, no, it was just to clear the main story. And it was just like, okay. And then for me, I get your point, and I get Max's point. Like, for me, like, I'm just like, okay, get it. Like, you get people who just want to like go into the game world and like look at all the schemes and just like kind of explore it. But I'm just like, I guess maybe it's just like my self-diagnosed ADHD. Like, I can like look at a thing for like a few seconds. I'm like, okay, got it. Like, mental picture taken. Like, all right. But like some people like really want to immerse themselves in it. But like, I kind of get what you're touching on as well. Like, for me, I'm terrible at FPS games. I'm so bad at them. Like, even when I play third-person FPS games, I'm terrible at aiming with a controller. I'm so bad. Like, when I played Doom Eternal and I moved it up from easy to like one more setting like towards hard, that game was like almost impossible for me. And then kind of what you're talking about, there are some people that are just like inherently better at certain games, and that's just the way it is. Like, you have your strengths. Like, a good example for me personally is Lies of P. So Lies of P is kind of like the Sekiro-esque, Bloodborne-esque type game. I sucked at it. Like, the pairing was really hard for me to get down, and I just would watch other people who would like take 1 or 2 tries to beat some of the bosses, and I'd be like stuck on them for like over an hour, and I'm just like, I should just sell my gaming system, because like I just like I just don't have it anymore. Like, and like you said about first-person shooters, you're not sitting there going, "Oh, these need to be adjusted to suit me," and things like that. No. Like, you acknowledge that you're just not as strong at those and other things. Like, I'm terrible at rhythm games, which is why generally I don't do well with the parrying and stuff like that. Like, I just can't keep a rhythm to save my fucking life. But yeah, so because I played that as using an example, that Metal Hellsinger game. Oh, like, I love the start of that. I'm like, yeah, this is great. But then when it started getting harder, I'm like, I just can't keep up. And like, yes, I could have pushed on and gotten better, but I know inherently I'm just not as good at those. So yeah, just everyone has preferences. But I think, yeah, I like for Astrobot, like 37 hours, because the email said 5 hours, but my gameplay was like 18 hours. To complete Astrobot, but that's with my kids also playing a lot as well. So just they wanted to play through some of the levels that I've completed and stuff like that. So I think my playtime probably was 12 hours at that point to get to the finish. For me, I'm really particular about playtime because I want it to be as accurate as possible. So like, I know people that just like leave their shit on the start menu or like whatever, and then let it go there. I don't. Like, so when I'm done playing, I quit the game out like completely.
I'm
and
like
then,
that too.
Yeah. So like some people, I'm like, how did you, what? You have how many hours? And they're like, oh yeah, but I left it on all night. And you're like, okay,
and went to work.
And you're like, I put the tape on the X so I could run this. What was
just so
that
they can brag.
But no, I get it. But I guess it's probably I bet you, Max, I don't know, like, I would feel like you'd probably feel the same way. Like, you can't imagine how I would play a game like that and, like, do it in the speed that I do it. And, like, I'm the same way. Like, I'm just like, like, how do you spend that much time? Like, what are you,
what
like,
the
I'd love
fuck
to
were
watch.
you doing with all that time?
Yeah, like, I'd love to watch, but, like, I bet you it's the same for Max as well. So, like, I think what it comes down to is, like, people play differently. And then there's some people who are, and again, in some circumstances, it's just like, I want to absorb everything that there is to absorb in this game because I love the game world so much. And then there's also like I want to take a casual approach because this is a getaway for me. And I'm not really into like learning the in-tune mechanics or like getting good, as the kids would say, portion side of it too. So I don't know, it's a very nuanced topic.
There's also like like Wara mentioned rhythm games, but there's also, you know, like fighting games, for example, like Tekken and Street Fighter, and like I never play those, and I consider myself like I'm someone who's gamed for 3 decades plus, right? But if you handed me like the new Mortal Kombat game, like I would look like someone who's never picked up a controller, right? And that game would take me a long time to beat. Because I never play those, or first person shooters. So it's also like, what type of games are you playing? Like, how good are you at? How hard have you really been trying to progress at water skiing, or are you just casually water skiing? Right? Like, I'm not trying to get better at fighting games, but I'm trying to get better at being a gamer. So it's like,
I think it took me over 2 hours to get the speedboat to actually get me on the water without falling. And then I think the longest I could last was like a minute.
You're being serious? I thought you were taking the piss. Oh, so you've been water skiing?
Yeah.
Yeah. What type of boat was pulling you? Did it have the motor like obviously out, or was it inside the boat?
No, it was a speedboat, so it had the motor on the outside.
Yeah. Well, speedboat will have a motor on the inside too, like a V8 one inside. Like
I know it's definitely a boat where they've got the motor on the outside.
Yeah, so the motor on the outside generally it's called an outboard. Generally they're lower powered, so it's harder to pull you out of the water. So you sort of got to like step out of the water a little bit with those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So I'm trying to give you like. I'm saying it's harder. Like if you have a V8 motor, like I'm heavier, and my arms was like
this was probably 10 years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then our summer just wrapped up, so I probably maybe next summer I'll go speedboating. I'll take that.
Yeah. Because like we had a V8, like a one with a lot of horsepower, and then when Grandpa changed it to a outboard, like changed to another boat and it's an outboard. I said to my uncle, I'm like, is this even going to pull me out of the water? He's like, you're just going to have to hang on for longer. Yeah.
He's like, maybe don't have lunch today. And
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's a good segue into what are Max kind of touched on it here, but what are some game genres we could each live without? So War, I'll let you go first on this one.
That's pretty easy. Rhythm games for me.
Yeah.
Sports games I could live without. I'm going to say it and make everyone hate me, but I'm going to say Grand Theft Auto games. I could live without them. I guess that's not a genre. Do you want genres or
like sandbox type games?
Yeah, so I'll take that back. Sorry, I reread the question. Game genres. So sports games actually absolutely could just rarely play, except for the one I reviewed recently, Quidditch Champions, which is a sports game. But yeah, I could live without them. I don't care as much about them. And rhythm games, because I'm just not that great at them. And I don't really have that really desire to get better at them. It's just my preference, myself, yeah. Most other genres I like trying, like sim races. I love doing racing games. I love RPGs. Definitely couldn't live without RPGs. Action adventure games, definitely couldn't live without them. I guess. Yeah, just what about SingStar? What type of game is that? Is that still considered rhythm, or is that just like?
I would say like that's like an interactive music game.
Yeah, so I could live without them.
Any karaoke games.
Okay,
I think that's a good list. Max, how about you?
Yep.
Yeah, I think sports games. I don't know. Like I wanna. If I'm playing a game, I want to do and see things that I can't see in my day-to-day life. So like, I could go in the backyard and throw a football around. I'm not gonna lace up for the Seahawks, but I also like I can throw a football around. Quite easily. So I don't have any interest in like doing that with my fucking thumbs. And like music games, like why not learn a guitar as opposed to play Guitar Hero? Like my God, that South Park episode was so on point with that.
Yeah.
So those type of games.
Hey guys, I could actually play guitar.
like
that's lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you have trophies?
Yeah, seriously. Do you have the platinum trophy for it?
Yeah.
So that like sports games and music games, for sure. Like I have no time for that. I want like fantasy and like imagination and stuff that doesn't exist here.
That's it, yeah.
Good one. I would definitely say farming simulators or anything with the word cozy in front of it. I think you can just right click delete. Get the fuck out of here. Like I don't know what.
Ooh,
like,
farming games, yeah.
Like there's some games like that get shown off at like some of these game events, like the PlayStation State of Play, and you're just like, I'm not the demographic. Like, I'm definitely not the demographic for this. Like, it'll be like no action. It's literally like you're just walking across the screen to a dialogue moment, and like that's all it is. It's just a series of dialogue moments. And I know games like Undertale have been like very popular, or like some of those other games, but some of them, it's just like when they go belly up, you're like, what did you expect? Like, what were you like? I hope you had a fun time making that thing, because nobody should have gaslit you and told you that would be any sort of financial success. Like, they're like, gaming is a niche itself, but it's a very large niche. But there's some people who have like such a tiny corner of it that they're just like, this is our niche. You're just like, okay, like it's good to have a niche, but you're probably appealing to like 5 players. Like I don't know what you're doing, but yeah, anything cozy, right click delete.
That's so weird.
Yeah. For me, like cozy is like playing Cyberpunk and just like hanging out in my apartment and like having a smoke and like
Yeah. Like
in game.
Yeah, like I didn't comment on cozy just because I did actually genuinely enjoy Animal Crossing New Horizons, even though I was paying out my daughter and my missus when they first played it. I'm like, that's just so boring. I wouldn't play that. Me 20 hours later.
I haven't played it, so maybe it's a secret banger that like maybe I just don't get and haven't gotten into. Maybe I'll try.
Like I don't tell people to. I'm not trying to advocate. Oh, go try it. But yeah, I was surprised because I didn't expect I'd like it. And I'm actually excited for The Shire, that Hobbit game, where it's like meant to be a cozy. But just because I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, I want to try it. Like, and Johnny's like, "Are you gonna review that?" I'm just like, "Yeah." Let's see. It
looked like Bratz, but like set in the Lord of the Rings. Bratz is like those stupid like girl characters with big heads and like ridiculous makeup. I don't know.
Yeah, they were trying
dolls,
to. Yeah, they were competing with dolls. Yeah. I've got a few of them here.
Oh,
not me. Sorry, my missus has.
Yeah,
stalls.
definitely not me. But like, okay. So now that we've alienated all corners of the gaming market, I think now's a good time for the reigning champ to defend his kingdom once more with the FromSoftware 2-minute defense.
Let's go.
Are you ready, Jimmy?
All right, I'm ready. What do you got for me?
All right. Why is it that Elden Ring base game, we're not talking about the DLC yet, just the base game. Why is it only has 8 unique single time use bosses, Jimmy? What's FromSoftware doing over there?
Oh, why there's only 8 unique bosses?
Yeah,
out
that
of the total 126?
Out of like 160. Yeah. So there's only 8 that are not fought more than once. Why? This is meant to be a massive issue.
Yeah, okay. So a lot of people gripe about Elden Ring because there's a bunch of bosses that repeat, and some of them are kind of like lower tier bitch enemies with boss health bars. So this is FromSoftware's first open world game ever that they've ever made, and you got to fill that world with something, right? So I definitely feel like people take it a little bit too hard, too much. That like there's all of these crappy optional bosses. Those are there for you watching with the skill issue, talking about how many bosses repeat, because you were not good enough to face the main story boss. So they had to fill it with shit that you can go farm for runes for. So that's why there's all these minor bosses that kind of repeat or whatever. They're just fodder bosses for you to get runes so you can level up, get higher skills, and maybe have that little bit of an edge to take on the main story boss. It's like, could there be more unique bosses? Absolutely. But like the immense amount of content that's in the base game of Elden Ring is just like unheard of. And then when you look at a game like God of War 2018, where you literally fight the exact same troll, I think like 9 times. It's literally story, 9 times. Yeah. And then people talk to me about Elden Ring having some repeat bosses. It's like, I don't care. And then also, maybe for your first playthrough, that can get a little bit fatiguing because you're trying to do everything. But when I've played through like my second, third, 100th time, I skip a huge chunk of the content of the game and I just go to the main story bosses. And I never have I don't think I even have a repeat boss other than Godfrey, because you fight Golden Godfrey, which is like you have to fight that to progress the game. And then Margit, that's about it. But the reason why so many bosses repeat is, again, to give you a chance to go out and do something so you can get some more runes so you can take on the main story bosses, which don't repeat.
Thank you, Jimmy. I feel like there's a pretty clear crowd that is pushing this sort of narrative, and they're the ones who don't want to acknowledge that using their own logic that God of War 2018, you fight the same boss 3 times, the main boss. You fight him at the start, middle, and end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, what are we doing? Yeah, so it's just a disingenuous thing. I had to get this one out of the way.
And most times, like when people use that argument, they've never played Elden Ring. They have no intentions of playing Elden Ring. Yeah, they just see that some bosses like repeat, and they're like, "There's literally Godskin Duo. Like, what's the deal? So you're gonna have Godskin Quadro, and they have them 4 times, and you're just like." Good. I hope they do. It's still going to be a better game than whatever piece of shit that you're playing. Like,
yeah, I like that you fight them individually at different points, and then you fight them together, like optionally, and then collectively for the story. But yeah, it wasn't the best question to ask, but I can't ask all the heavy hitters straight off the bat. So
so that's another week, people, that I dunked on you. You can't beat me. You never will, and it's just you might as well just give up. Any of your dumb questions, I'm gonna brush off like they're nothing, because that's what you are. You're nothing. Everyone's like, I like War and I like Max, but fuck Jimmy.
It's balance. That's balance. Perfectly
that's balance, people.
Yeah.
You got to have the opposite end. This is a brand new segment, and Max, I'm sorry we premiered this while you're away, but we're doing it every week now. This is BGR Recommends, and this is at the end of each episode. We give a game that we definitely recommend for all of you to go out and play if you have the ability to, if you're looking for something in between your next big game. But Wara, let's let you go first.
All right, so this week I'm going to recommend everyone who hasn't already play Witcher 3. It just has... The story itself is really only 20 hours. You might have heard that a lot of people say it's like, oh, it's a 100-hour story. It's really only 20 hours if you only want to do the main story, and you're not forced to do side content. It's an RPG with a little bit of a clunky combat system, but that's aging a little bit now, but it is just so immersive. The world's so great. The developers, you can tell, put a lot of love into it. And my missus has the platinum for it, just so you know. 170 hours she spent to get the platinum. So the platinum's a slog. It's definitely a slog. But yeah, definitely anyone looking for an RPG, if they haven't tried it before, jump into that and give that a chance. You know, you've got Geralt. Most people know who Geralt is. He's a witcher who's got like a little bit of magic powers, got 5 different abilities he can use. And then he can utilize bombs if he wants to, or just his 2 different swords, so silver sword or steel sword. But heaps good. The side content in that game is just leagues better than just the main story, and even the main story is heaps good. So yeah, I definitely recommend that for anyone who hasn't tried. It won't be for everyone. Like I said, the combat's not super amazing, but it's serviceable, and it's picked up by the story and the choices that you can make, and yeah, it's pretty immersive if you get into it. Yeah,
I really wanted to like that game, and the combat was why I stopped playing.
yeah. There you go.
Being a FromSoft fan, I was just like, oh, this is tough. Like this is clunky. But,
Max, you and I were working together when that game came out, and I remember all of the guys at work were talking about it and like how mind-blowing it was for the time.
They got Game of the Year that year.
Yeah, it was just like, But Wild Hunt, is that like the Ultimate Edition that comes with all the DLCs?
No, it's called The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Okay.
Like that's just the name. The complete edition on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S is the complete edition with the 2 DLCs. So probably don't. You spend whatever you want to spend, but if you're not sure if you'll like it, maybe just get the base game to start off. But yeah, like people who haven't played, like my missus hasn't played she hasn't really played any FromSoftware games. So I really wanted to get into the games because I think that she will then also acknowledge that Witcher 3 doesn't have the best combat. But you can go into like a heavy attack and then you can just like dodge out of halfway through a swing in The Witcher. It's just like complete opposite to Dark Souls. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but like the animation works really well with it. So it sort of like flows, but it just doesn't seem right. But it's still, you just get out of it.
I hate games where you can animation cancel way too easy because like I'm just so used to how like you have to commit in Souls games. Like I kind of like it, and I've tuned myself to that playstyle because like I'll hit like the Estus button or like the heal button, and then like you wait for that animation to finish, but I'm already like hitting my next one, and then when I do that in other games, and then I just cancel out and I don't heal, and it fucks me over, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I've heard people saying that there's missed inputs for Elden Ring. They're like, I'll try and dodge while I'm sucking the Estus flask, and then I won't dodge, and it's just missing the input. I'm just like, are you just pushing it before it's time, and then you're matching something else? Like, I think that then I just don't think they understand how the game works, where it's not going to let you roll
Sounds
out
like
of sucking the flask off. But yeah,
I've totally never used that excuse when I play. So.
But yeah, like in The Witcher, you want to activate something where he's going to start investigating, and if you jump as he starts investigating, you don't have to sit there and watch him investigate. He'll just do the dialogue, so you can investigate like everything in the room you need to. Because I played through it to do the hardest difficulty in The Witcher 3, and I didn't want to have to listen to everything again, so I would just like go down, investigate, immediately jump, and then investigate while jumping, and then leave instead of having to spend 3 minutes.
That makes me think of a new mechanic that I hate the most, or is investigate quests, where like you gotta like look for clues, and then you have to do the clues in the right order for the dialogue to progress the certain way. Anyway, Max, do you have a game that you'd recommend ready, or do you want me to go first?
I do have one. With September coming to a close soon, my yearly playthrough of Resident Evil 4 is approaching. Always around Halloween time. I play that game every single year. That game is available on literally every console, including your home microwave. I mean, there's no excuse not to play it if you haven't played it nowadays. I think it's a classic. It's a lot of people that, played the earlier games. I've heard some people say they don't like the third-person perspective over the shoulder. But for me personally, I loved it. I think it's an incredible game. It's, incredibly atmospheric, satisfying, good story, good voice acting, great mechanics. You can finish it in a dedicated weekend. What's not to love about it? So for me, that would be my pick. Go out and play the original, please. Resident Evil 4.
I only played the remake, but I think I'm going to take you up on that. And then this October, I will play the original. And I will... Because I had a good old time with the remake. And then I loved the remake series. So 2, 3, and 4. I loved the third person. And then when I played 7 and 8, the first person perspective, it was okay, but it wasn't as fun. And like, I don't know. They're like, I definitely had more shart my pants moments in Resident Evil 2 and 3 than I did 7 and 8, but no, that's a good one for sure. The game that I'm going to recommend this week is Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. It's like one of the offshoot Metal Gear games, and the main character instead of Solid Snake is Raiden. Hilarious game. This game is over the top in every single way that you would love it to be over the top. It has QTEs, but they're ridiculous. It's like the most fun I've had in a game in a really long time. Like you literally chop people into a million pieces in the game, and it's just so over the top. It's got like a ridiculous storyline. The storyline is hilariously like just absurd. Like when I reviewed it, I said it's like a 14-year-old wrote the story. It totally is. And a lot of the political thematics that are in that game match today's environment in a hilarious, like kind of like caricature way. But the game is on PS3. You can still buy it on the PSN store for PS3. I think it's like $29. You could buy it on an current Xbox console for like $19, and you could buy it on Steam for like $13. It's super inexpensive. I highly, highly, highly recommend. It's a good time. It's a solid like 5 to 7 hour game, and it's just like you'll just be smiling because you're just laughing at how ridiculous it is. So definitely recommend Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. All right, and that brings us to a close for episode 5. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. It was good to have the boys back in the warehouse. We would love to give a shout out to all of you who've been watching, checking out the premieres of our podcast when they go live on YouTube, and then also following us on Spotify and Apple Music for podcasts. So if you don't have time to watch us, just throw us on the radio while you're like doing your commute or just like hanging out on your lunch break. Love that people are following that. And yeah, make sure that you have liked the video and subscribed to the channel. We super appreciate all the support, and we're slowly building our little community here. And we'll see you guys in the next one. So cheers.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
See you later.